autofocus kind of sucks for street photography. So recently, I've been taking a look back at a lot of the photos I've taken last year. And as I look back at them, I noticed that I'm missing focus kind of a lot, or missing the moment by a few milliseconds here and there. And I'm realizing it's because of autofocus. Autofocus kind of sucks for street photography. When you think about it, oftentimes it has to identify what subject you're shooting. And so let's say I have a crowded scene with a bunch of people on the street. How does it know which person, when you're using your face detect autofocus, to focus on? It doesn't, it picks. Or if you're like me and use just a center focus point, sometimes there's stuff in between your subject and you, and so it'll focus on the things in the middle and not the subject that you have behind it. There's a lot of reasons why autofocus is not the right thing for street photography, and the biggest one, if you ask me, is that it just takes too freaking long. If I have to bring my camera up to my eye, focus on the subject, and then recompose the shot, that moment's already passed. I missed that. So I'm realizing more and more that it's not me, but actually autofocus that's hurting my street photography. And shockingly, most great street photographers don't even use this stuff. So what do? They zone focus. Zone focusing is actually pretty simple. Your goal is to set your camera so that way you have an acceptable focus range that you know in the back of your head. And so whenever anybody enters that range, they're in focus. You don't have to do anything on your camera other than press the shutter and capture the image. So how you do this is by setting your camera to a more narrow aperture or smaller aperture. So in this case, I like to keep my camera at f8. And at f8, that kind of gives me a pretty wide range of acceptable focus. And I like to set my far focus to infinity, which puts my near focus at about 6 feet. So that means when I'm out and about shooting, anybody who's within 6 feet and beyond is in focus. So I've never done this before, so we're gonna go down to Center City and figure out how to make this work. I have the 23mm f2 on the Fuji X-Pro2, but anyways, let's get out and shoot. Can I get a shot of you on that?
I'm not really trying to take any photos now, I'm sorry.
No worries, man. What? You'll do something? Alright, sick. Yeah. I'll send it to you if it comes out good. Sick. Pressure's on. Woo! Nice. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, of course. So zone focusing was freaking hard. Really, I struggled with a lot of the perceiving of depth. So, you know, it was pretty easy for me to assume what 6-ish feet to infinity was. What I really struggled with was setting a close zone. So what's that zone for when somebody's in my personal space? Like their face is kind of coming in close. What is 3 to 4 or 3 to 5 feet? That zone was tough for me to perceive. So that's going to take a lot of practice, as well as with these digital cameras and they're focused by wire. That was kind of challenging. I couldn't necessarily switch the focus in time, so that way I could have a consistent focus throw that got me to the exact zone I needed to be. The most important thing I learned from this whole thing is that oftentimes the thing you're trying to shoot is not always going to be in focus. Zone focusing works with an acceptable margin of focus. So if somebody's pretty close to the edge of your zone, so if they're pretty close to, you know, like 8 feet from me when I'm shooting at my hyperfocal distance on a 23mm lens, that might be somewhat out of focus, but still within tolerance. And that's something I'm just having to learn to live with. It's not always about having the sharpest photo. What it's really about is having a photo that means something, that tells a story, that has great lighting, amazing composition. Those things compensate so much for not having the photo perfectly tack sharp. And I think that's something I'm learning to live with as a photographer and encourage all of you to learn to live with as a photographer. Zone focusing was great. I think it's something I really liked. It really improved the way I shot. I definitely see a lot of room for me to improve in that regard, but it's definitely something I want to continue down. I think it's a great way to shoot. It's an incredible way to make sure that I'm capturing the moments that I want to capture and not getting bogged down in in how to use my camera or waiting for autofocus to catch up. So I think I'm going to continue to learn it. And if it's something you guys are interested in seeing, I'd love to make a follow-up video to this. If you want to hear more about my settings that I used, I take a lot of time to strip away all of the unnecessary settings within my camera, so that way it's as close to one of these analog cameras as possible. If you want to learn more about how I do that, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to make a video. I hope you guys enjoyed this and had as much fun watching it as I did making it. Please like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll make more of these in the near future.